How's it going, Hardwood fans? Welcome to episode 3 of this season of Hardwood Heroes. I'm the host, Nick Niehaus, and I am so excited for today's show because the TVC was absolutely shook this week as a handful of teams at the top were on the wrong side of an upset. But I'll get into that in just a minute. Let's tip it off. As always, we have reporters breaking down all of our teams. If you watched last week's episode, you caught one of my favorite segments, Rebound, and we're bringing it back for today's show. And my online hosts, Tommy and Taylor, have this week's Heroes of the Week. Now on to the standings. In the Ohio, the Vinton County Vikings are hanging in there at number 1 at 7-2, but fell to the Athens Bulldogs this week, who has every single one of their wins in conference. Alexander and Wilson are tied at number 2, as Wilson notched 2 wins in the Ohio just this week, and Nelsonville-York took Meigs' spot at the bottom with still just 1 conference win. To the girls of the Ohio, the Vinton County Lady Vikings dropped their only game of the week, killing their perfect record, but fortunately they are still as perfect as a Steph Curry jumper in conference at 8-0. Nelsonville-York is still right on their heels with 7 conference dubs, and Alexander is tied up with Meigs Marauders for 3rd place with a 4-3 conference record. To the Hocking. This race still doesn't have a front runner as Trimble and Waterford are tied, with both dropping a game in an upset this week to conference foes. Eastern took down the Wildcats, and the Southern Tornadoes swept the Tomcats up in a storm, giving them their 7th conference win. Now on to the girls. You should know by now who's in first place. The Waterford Lady Wildcats are 12-0. Federal Hocking is sitting at 3rd place with a loss to number 2 Eastern, and these two teams play this week, so number 2 spot will be at stake. And if you missed last week's episode, the Trimble Lady Tomcats had to discontinue their season due to injuries. To kick off our show, we've got all the latest that's been going on out in Stewart with the Federal Hocking Lancers. Federal Hocking lead reporter Will Collins joins me on desk to break down some Lancer basketball.
Well, Nick, it has been an up and down week for the Lancers this week. On Tuesday night, the boys played host to the South Gallia Rebels in their 2nd meeting of the season. Earlier this season, the Lancers broke their 28-game losing streak against these Rebels. Although, despite a fast start, the Lancers fell to the Rebels 51-46. The Lancers were up 15-6 at the end of the first, but during the second quarter, it started to unravel for them. And by the end of the half, they found themselves tied with South Gallia at 23. Fedhawk head coach Kevin Dunnigan said his team's Achilles heel all season has been that second quarter. And when it seems like they are doing well, they take their foot off the gas and get tired. Despite the loss, the Lancers still played well on defense, and in the second half limited Rebel leading scorer Braxton Hardy to just 3 points of his 18 in the game. The Lancer offense fell short in getting key shots to fall in the second half, but Brandon Gould led the Lancers with 10 points on the night. They traveled to Southern on Friday night as well and fell short again, 51-43.
So it sounds like the boys, they've got some bugs to work out yet, but how did the girls fare this week?
The girls picked up 2 more wins in league play, 41-25 over South Gallia on Monday, and a 51-41 win over the Lady Tornadoes when they traveled to Southern on Thursday night. We were at Southern for the Lady Lancers' 11th win and 3rd win in a row on Thursday. This game, once again, was highlighted by the defensive play of Federal Hocking. Week in and week out, the Lady Lancers play consistently and tenaciously on defense, with their zone defense being hard to get past. The Lady Lancers forced Southern to commit 17 turnovers in just the first 3 quarters of the game. Fedhawks' offense also played well despite not consistently hitting shots on bigger offensive opportunities. They played a fast-paced game all night, and they were able to capitalize on it. Hannah Dunphy led Fedhawk with 12 points on the night. Both these teams will be back in action then this week, Nick, when the boys host Waterford and the girls travel to Eastern.
Yeah, the boys, you know they've got some work to do, but look out for those Lady Lancers. Thanks for the great work, Will. Switching over to Eastern, this week was a test for the Lady Eagles as all 3 of their opponents came in with winning records. I'm joined by Eastern reporters Nate Moore and Luke Steiner to tell us how they fared.
Nick, you're right on the money about this stretch being a test for the girls, but boy did the Lady Eagles bring their A game this week. Now Luke, we all know about the Lady Eagles shutdown defense, but I believe this week was all about their Eastern 3 seniors, Liz Collins, Madison Williams, and Caitlin Hogg.
No doubt about that, Nate. Those 3 seniors are the heart and soul of this Lady Eagles team. Liz and Madison are the main offensive weapons for the Lady Eagles, while Caitlin comes off the bench with energy and heart. After Thursday's win against Belpre, Coach Parker said it best about Caitlin. She comes in and plays great defense, doesn't commit a lot of turnovers, and takes a shot when it is needed. The three seniors and the Lady Eagles took on Belpre this week, a team that defeated them early on in the season. You could tell that they did not want to fall to Belpre once again, and in the matchup, Madison Williams and Liz Collins were able to dominate just like they have all season long. Madison Williams scored 23 points and was just having her way with the Belpre defense. Liz Collins dominated once again in the paint with 15 points and 15 rebounds. This team is dependent on their three seniors, and for good reason. This Lady Eagles team would not be the same without Liz, Madison, and Caitlin.
I couldn't agree more. If this Eastern team wants to make another big run at the end of the year, the seniors are going to have to continue to put up big performances in the clutch and in the biggest moments. Now, the boys have been struggling for most of the year, but they ended this week with the ultimate highlight.
A highlight is something that can change a team's outlook on the season. That's what the Eastern boys look to do after their overtime matchup against Waterford. Waterford came into the game atop the TVC Hocking, while Eastern placed near the bottom. The name of the game was free throws and the play of Eastern's forwards. Free throws are something that can make or break a team. The Eagles outshot Waterford 31-6 at the free throw line. Next was the play of Caleb Hill, Garrett Behringer, and Isaiah Fish. These three combined for 37 points and 19 free throws. Hill recorded a double-double with 12 points and 10 rebounds. Behringer hit the game-timing shot to send it into overtime, and Isaiah Fish dropped 12 points and showed up big in overtime.
Yeah, there's no denying that these three players, along with the rest of the team, were hungry to pull off this amazing upset.
Yeah, it's amazing how much influence a game like that can have for players, coaches, and the community. Thanks for the report, guys. If there's one thing you should do this week, it's checking out our website. We only get so much time on air to break down our teams, but I have a solution for you. All the content on woub.org/heroes. Written and video recaps, game footage, and interviews from your coaches and players are all stocked on there. That's woub.org/heroes. Just around the corner of our studio, we have the Athens Bulldogs with both boys and girls looking to make a second half push in the TVC Ohio. Athens reporter Justin Cudahy gives us a weekly roundup.
The Lady Bulldogs had a tough schedule this week, taking on two of the top three teams in the TVC Ohio. Athens had trouble stopping the three ball on Monday night against the Lady Marauders, giving up 30 beyond the arc, which was more than enough to give Meigs the 61-40 win. Despite a closer contest against NY Thursday night, Athens fell victim to the Lady Buckeyes' full court press, leading to quick turnovers and easy points. The Lady Bulldogs would drop this one 55-44 for their 9th straight loss. The boys team this Wednesday shook things up in the conference in their 54-51 victory over number 1 Vinton County. The team pulled off the upset behind Isaiah Butcher's 21-point performance, along with Logan Maxfield and Justin Hines, who each tacked on 10 of their own. With this victory, the Bulldogs have now entered the hunt for the top spot in the TVC Ohio.
That victory over Vinton County just goes to show you can never count out the Bulldogs. Their next test will be next Tuesday when they travel to Logan Elm to take on the Braves. Speaking of Vinton County, reporter Noah Wolf is here to tell us what went wrong in their loss against Athens.
Well, Nick, it was a topsy-turvy week for both Vinton County teams. We'll get to the boys team and their loss to Athens, but let's start with the Lady Vikings. The girls began their week on a high note with a win against TVC Ohio rival Alexander, 54-51. Morgan Bentley had another great game, leading the team with 14 points. Her sister Cassie had her second straight double-double with 12 points and 15 rebounds. Now, the key to victory for the Lady Vikings was shutting down Rachel Richardson. She put up 24 points in the early matchup this season at the Alley, but on Monday, she only had 15 points with only 4 through the first 3 quarters. However, Vinton County's perfect season stopped after win number 13. They lost at Unioto 67-44. Morgan Bentley scored 16 points, but their main issue was on defense. Unioto was able to break up Vinton County's full court press, and the Lady Vikings just couldn't keep up offensively. Now, the Lady Vikings ended the week on a high note, defeating Wellston 44-35. Vinton County girls played an intense 3 games in 4 days, and head coach Rod Bentley said that they're going to use this weekend to rest their legs.
Yeah, that schedule, they certainly didn't do the Lady Vikings any favors, and fatigue certainly played a big role in their loss. But the boys, they also lost their winning streak, as you mentioned.
Yeah, Nick, and unlike the girls, the boys lost at home and in conference. Now, before Tuesday night's game, the Vikings had a 5-game winning streak and had won 9 of their last 10. That all came to an end as they lost to the Athens Bulldogs at home 54-51. But on Friday night, they turned things around and rolled over the Meigs Marauders on the road 65-47. Nayland Yates led the way with 20 points. Jake Speakman contributed 17 and 4 assists. Head coach Matt Combs made sure that his team was in the right mindset coming into their game at the end of the week.
And basketball's not a game of perfect. You're going to have mistakes, and every game's like that, and you got to figure out ways to fight through that.
It's all about the process. So obviously that was tough to get over. But we have a one-day rule too. We focus on no matter what, win or lose. We worry about that game for one night.
Yeah, the Vinton County Vikings, they're certainly going to trust that process and hope that it keeps them at the top of the TVC Ohio. Thanks for the good work, Noah. As I mentioned earlier, I liked our rebound segment so much last week with Nelsonville-York, we decided to bring it back again this week. I'm going to say a word to Alexander reporter Maggie Shandrick, and she'll throw another word back at me. Let's get it started with the ladies of Alexander. My word for you is slump.
If you're going to say slump, then I'm going to rebound off of that and say battle. The Lady Spartans are experiencing a 4-game losing streak right now, and this is something those girls aren't used to. But keep in mind, those past 4 games was the toughest stretch of games out of anyone in our coverage. They lost to Warren 49-46, then the Fairland 42-29, fell short to the Lady Vikings 54-51, and then the Southeastern 47-44. All pretty close games, and those 4 teams they lost to have a combined 5 losses on the season. So what the Lady Spartans need to do is dig deep and battle before tournament time hits. They are in a little bit of a shooting slump right now, and that is something all teams experience at one point or another in the season. But this offense led by Rachel Richardson is strong, and once they start gaining their rhythm again and their shots find the bottom of the net, they're going to roll into the playoffs feeling pretty confident, and it's definitely going to be a team to watch out for.
Yeah, as always, they're going to definitely be someone to watch out for. But what about the boys of Albany? My next word for you is depth.
You say depth, Nick, and I say bench. The Spartans may have the deepest bench in the TVC. Say a starter is off one game, that's okay. Someone on the bench will step up. Head coach Jim Kern said his usual starting 5 is Ryan Davidson, Luke Kish, Dylan Meckham, Cam Riley, and Caleb Terry. Those 5 share the scoring pretty well, but let's look at the non-starters. J.K. Kearns is a sophomore, and he is averaging 7.2 points per game. He plays a lot of minutes at the point guard position. Matt Brown is also a sophomore and is seeing a lot of playing time as he gains more varsity experience. He averages 3.7 points. And junior Stone Markins Irwin has recently returned from shoulder surgery. He started 18 games last year as a sophomore at the 4 spot and is trying to work his way back into shape. And with the way the Spartans are playing as a team right now, they have a pretty good chance of coming home with the title if they keep this up.
Yeah, it's a tight race for the boys in the TVC Ohio. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out between those top few teams. Thanks for the great rebound segment, Maggie. Moving on to Nelsonville-York. The race for the Ohio title is on for the girls. The Lady Buckeyes have won 5 of their last 6 games. Nelsonville reporters Nate Busilla and Jacob Murray join us on Sideset, and they're excited to talk about the Lady Buckeyes' big game this Thursday.
You sure know your Lady Buckeye basketball, Nick. Not only is Thursday the day before Groundhog Day, but it's the day the girls get a chance at revenge with Vinton County.
And in order to get that revenge, they need to fix a couple of issues they had from their previous meeting.
Their first go-around with the Lady Vikings, Nelsonville gave up 11 three-pointers. Many of those threes were open looks that came in transition or off the drive. Lady Buckeyes are going to need to do a better job pressuring those shooters.
Nelsonville had 3 players foul out and allowed the Bentley sisters to shoot a combined 21 free throws. They're going to need to play a lot more clean game this time around.
Where the Lady Buckeyes have Vinton County beat is with their speed and defensive intensity. If Nelsonville is able to force turnovers and run in the open court, we think that Groundhog is going to see himself a big Nelsonville W when he wakes up Friday morning.
So that's a whole lot of Groundhog talk. If we were to ask him what his thoughts on the boys' team would be, what do you think he'd have to say?
He'd tell you the boys haven't been playing complete games. They've dropped to last place in conference, losing 4 in a row, including a 62-57 loss to Meigs last Tuesday, in a game that they had no business losing.
Having led the entire game, the boys took their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter and couldn't get back up to speed when it counted. They allowed themselves to be lax, and it seemed like they thought they had the game won.
When it counted, they weren't able to inbound the ball on multiple occasions, and offensive possessions turned sloppy fast. They're an aggressive team, and that sometimes doesn't work well for them, as they attempt to block pretty much every shot. And although they do swat a lot of shots, if their shot isn't blocked, they now have a man out of place, which leads to a lot of offensive rebounds for their opponent.
We did see some ball movement from them we hadn't seen all season, and it paid dividends. But they got away from that in the fourth quarter. The boys need to find a style that utilizes their athleticism and aggressiveness while also staying composed.
Yeah, it sounds like the girls, they have a chance of taking the title, but the boys, they've been struggling in this new year. Thanks, you two. It's about time. Our first snap of the week, and it's dedicated to Randy Hickson, who scored his 1,000th point of his career. Hey, how special was that? Congrats, Randy. And shout out to Mackenzie Cooper for the snap. Now let's shift gears a little bit here. We all know basketball is a team sport, and we want to make sure we recognize a very crucial part of the team, the fans. Online host Taylor Nimmo went out this week to find the craziest fans in our coverage.
Nick, the fans bring the energy each week, and they're the ones who make the atmosphere of high school basketball so special, and they have plenty of fun doing it. I'll tell you, these fans do get pretty rowdy, but you take a look for yourself. Let's check it out. All right, Hardwood fans, we've been calling out the heroes of the week all season long, but now it's time to call out the fans.
Wow! We're going all the way to the Congo, baby. All the way.
I just want to commend those kids because they cheered their butts off. That was energy that we were able to feed off from us.
No one gets the teams pumped up quite like the band does.
Well, you saw it. It's incredible. I mean, how could you not be an Eastern fan? It's insane.
The TVC has some pretty awesome fans, Nick. They were really cracking me up out there.
Yeah, it sure looks like those fans, they like to get rowdy. I think you need some work on the drums, but I'll thank you anyway. I'll see you back here for the Hero of the Week later in the show. And as a former Trimble reporter, I know all about the passion shown by those out in Gloucester. The Trimble Tomcats have been a staple at the top of the TVC Hocking standings, but Trimble lead reporter Paul Roth is with me now, and he says that they need some consistency for this Tomcat team.
Without a doubt, Nick. While this Trimble team has flirted with the top spot in the Hocking, they have yet to show that they can consistently play to their potential, and this past week was a perfect example of that. On Tuesday, the Tomcats went to Southern to face a Tornadoes team that they had already beaten once this season. But this time around, the Tornadoes blew them away. Southern came out firing, knocking down shots from all over the court, even one from sitting on the ground. Trimble went down by 25 at one point before a late comeback effort was for naught as they lost by 10. But on Friday, the Tomcats went to Belpre and took a 14-point win in a game that they never trailed in after the first quarter. Max Hooper and Randy Hickson combined to score 48 points for the Tomcats, single-handedly outscoring the entire Golden Eagles team. This was the type of game that should be expected of Trimble. Hard-nosed defense and a fluid offense that bends to what the defense throws at it. If they can consistently play at this high level, they'll prove themselves to be true contenders in the Hocking. Now, Nick, when I asked what his favorite part of this season has been, you know what Randy Hickson told me? Winning.
Oh my God, well it sounds like him and the Tomcats, they had a brief hiccup, but they're back on track to those winning ways. Thanks, Paul. Now, Twitter is the main source for a lot of things. It's got videos of LeBron James working out to Drake, and it has all the TVC basketball info you need. Go to our profile at Hardwood Heroes and hit that follow button. Our reporters are at games almost every night, so if you can't make the trek to an away game, we got you covered with updates. There's one team in the area that's celebrating a huge milestone, and over the years they've had a lot of success. Reporter Samantha Wiesnett joins me on desk to talk about the Southern Tornadoes and their past 100 years.
Yeah, Nick, this year the Southern Tornadoes are celebrating a century of basketball, and the whole community is proud to be a part of Southern's history. Tornadoes basketball team is celebrating its 100th year, and throughout the years, they've established a winning tradition.
We take great pride in our achievements at Southern. It's just an honor to put on the jersey.
It's just an amazing thing because we've had basketball for 100 years here. We try to put a good product out there on the floor.
Players, both past and present, have been held to the same Southern standard.
To do it the right way is what we were taught. We were taught to play hard, yes sir, no sir to the officials.
For years, it's been clean shaven and haircut short and a bunch of good hard-nosed kids to go out there and play basketball hard and play it the right way.
There's always been a great tradition here at Southern, and we just want to keep that tradition strong and keep winning.
For the last century, the community has celebrated the hustling Tornadoes every step of the way.
It's the talk of the town year-round. There's so many of them, they're second and third generation players. It consumes the community.
All the older people that were around for the basketball when it was more of a winning tradition always come now, and we're just trying to get back the winning tradition for them.
The Southern tradition has lasted for generations, and it continues to shape a bright future for all involved.
Beating heart of the community is what it is. And then when you play sports well and have really good academics, then it really makes for a solid foundation for the kids and their futures.
With well over 1,000 wins under their belt, the Hustling Tornadoes will continue their winning tradition for years to come.
The Tornadoes are ranked 14th for all-time wins in the state of Ohio, and Nick, I don't see them slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, they're definitely a team that we should keep an eye on. Thanks for the great work, Sam. The Waterford Wildcats continued their winning ways as both the girls and the boys remain atop the Hocking. Waterford reporter Connor Mills is here on desk with me as the Lady Wildcats experience a blast from the past.
A blast from the past is correct. In their the girls have not played in their high school gym for the entire career coaching for Coach Jerry Close. With all the snow makeup games this week, the Wildcat wrestling team had priority over the newer gymnasium, which placed the girls in a different home environment. Early on in their game against Southern, the Waterford girls missed a couple of layups as they were adjusting to the different courts. As soon as the Lady Wildcats settled in, they ran away with this one early. The bench might have come in. The Stars came out of the game close to the start of the second and only allowed 8 total points to the Golden Tornadoes. The bench might have come in, but an average fan would not be able to tell the difference. The bench played extremely well, and the game progressed as the starters rotated in and out until the end. Megan Ball led all scorers at 14, and Kenzie Dietz led the bench squad with 10. The Lady Wildcats went 2-0 this week with a win against Wahama, a 64-10 win, and remain undefeated in the state of Ohio.
So the girls extended their winning streak to 12, which is pretty exciting, but I remember you telling me about a thrilling game the boys had against Miller on Tuesday.
Yeah, the boys have been on a roller coaster ride of emotion this week. On Tuesday, they went against Miller Falcons, and the Wildcats shined in the fourth quarter. Travis Pottmeyer led with 14 points, half of them coming from the free throw line. Wildcats won 58-55. After the game, I caught up with head coach Tom Sims, and he talked about the importance of cashing in the freebies.
Games are won and lost at the foul line. Where'd we win it at? Won at the foul line tonight. Came back, got that done, got our pressure to work. They made some crucial turnovers. We turned it around and knocked it down.
I know Coach Sims was upset with his crew as they lost in overtime against Eastern last Friday.
Yeah, the Wildcats, they sent the Eagles to the line 31 times, and it's really hard to win a ball game when they do that. So thanks for the great work, Connor. Now back to the TVC Ohio. The Meigs Marauders and Lady Marauders are moving in the right direction and seeing improvements. I have Joe Hennessy beside me to talk about what's been popping in Pomeroy. First, let's talk about the boys. 4-10 on the season, but they have won those 4 games in their last 6.
Yeah, Nick. Meigs hit a bit of a slope losing players, but the shots are starting to fall and the team is playing very competitive and battling every game. Weston Bear and Zach Bartram combined had 71% of Meigs' points against Nelsonville in their win. Bear ended with 30 points, Bartram ended with 14. As Nate and Jacob were saying earlier, Nelsonville was flying around and causing disruptions, but Meigs was able to pull through behind their key players.
Those two run the show for sure, but as Noah mentioned earlier, Vinton County showed their dominance against Meigs.
Yeah, as Noah said, Yates and Speakman played a great game, and the Marauders couldn't stop them in the Vikings. Coach Ed Fry after the game said that they knew it was going to be a tough one, but Weston Bear finished with 21 points, Bobby Musser ended with 14 rebounds. It was an uphill battle, but those were the positives in the loss.
Now for the girls, they had a long week playing 4 games in just 6 days.
Yeah, the girls lost a close game to Wayne by 6, then faced off against the Athens Lady Bulldogs. Coach Jared Kaysen was pleased with the 21-point win. Cassidy Betzing had 16 points, and Becca Pullins was balling out. She had 14 points with 4 threes. Here's what Coach Kaysen had to say after the game.
Have multiple players that can shoot the ball. So whoever's on, we try to get them the ball and get them the shots when they're open. As long as we don't pound the ball and the ball doesn't get sticky, we move the ball, we get open shots, and luckily today some of them went in.
Yeah, at Eastern was an electrifying fast-paced game, but Meigs ended up just short, 71-70.
Yeah, it sounds like that game didn't really have much defense in that one. The Lady Marauders they then played at River Valley and won 47-10. Up next, Meigs first place in the TVC Ohio, Vinton County.
Yeah, earlier on in the year, they lost by 10 to Vinton County, and Lady Vikings have been dominating in the TVC Ohio. But if Bessing and Madison Fields can take care of the ball, if Paulins, Marissa Noble, Maddie Hendricks can make their shots and make their threes, they could leave the gym with an upset win.
Yeah, Vinton County, they're playing well. And after the Lady Vikings, the Lady Marauders, they have to play third place Alexander. It's going to be another tough week for Meigs. We'll see how it all plays out next week. Thanks, Joe. The great thing about Hardwood Heroes is we don't just have our show, we have so much more. YouTube is that place. Go to WOUB PBS and find all of our midweek content. And don't be afraid to get carried away and watch for hours on end. That might just be my thing, but I know you'd love to see everything we have to offer on our YouTube page. Again, WOUB PBS. We're to the end of the show, and you know what that means. It's time for Heroes of the Week. My online hosts Taylor Nimmo and Tommy Garvik join me now. And guys, it couldn't have been easy to make your picks this week.
You know, Nick, it feels like these picks get harder to make as the weeks go on. I mean, we had 14 games to go through this week.
Yeah, and after all those cancellations last week, games were certainly not at a premium.
Games not being at a premium would be an understatement, and I'm going to put the spotlight on a post player who's the difference maker on her team. Liz Collins, she is the enforcer for this Lady Eagle team. No easy looks at the rim are going to happen on her watch here as she forced several Belpre kickouts for tough shots all night long. She's a stonewall in the paint, and it didn't matter who came her way. No one could score within 3 feet of the hoop. Being so hard to defend, she often gets to clean up the scraps after picking up offensive boards. But here's a play that goes beyond the stat sheet. She gets the rebound and, like a quarterback would, pushes the ball down the field, and we're going to speed up the play, which eventually leads to an easy Madison Williams transition layup. And again, she clears the way for this time Allison Bailey, who dribble drives all the way to the hole. She's absolutely money around the rim, and check out this footwork in the low post. This one's my favorite. A drop step right hook and a little kiss off the tin, but Taylor Collins isn't the only back-to-the-basket player we're recognizing this week.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Tommy. This week for the boys, I'm calling out an up-and-coming hero, Isaiah Butcher out of Athens. This Bulldog's only a sophomore, but you sure would not know it by the way he plays. I'll tell you why Isaiah is our hero of the week this week. This guy was Mr. Clutch when his team needed him most. He was the difference for Athens, a major contribution to the Bulldogs' upset win against the top-ranked team in the TVC Ohio, the Vinton County Vikings, putting up 21 points in that game. I mean, talk about a hero. This man has some size. He's a big man. He's their center, but he can shoot from just about anywhere. When he drives to the basket, he is a force. He uses his size to his advantage defensively. He's a weapon, consistently getting rebounds for Athens. He clears out the lane, making it difficult for anyone to drive to the basket. You got to get past this guy first. He's just all around a talented player, and Isaiah's got some potential. Now, he has some time to mature and grow into such a strong leader for this team, and he's definitely going to be someone to keep an eye out for in the future, Tommy.
Man, it's hard to believe that next week we'll be at the halfway point of our season, and we're going to have to start thinking about our all-heroes team, Taylor.
I know, it's crazy, Tommy. Conference races are heating up, and hopefully our future heroes are saving their best performances for last.
Yeah, he's definitely someone to look for. Maybe, I don't know, maybe our TVC future teams at the end of the season. We'll see about that. But, hey, you guys have been great so far, but as the regular season stretch run comes, it should be tough making these picks. But I know you guys will get it right. Thanks, you two. All right, folks, well, that's all we have for you for this week's show. Again, check out all of our content on our platforms. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, add us on Snapchat. We have so much content that I know none of you want to miss. Now, until next week, I'm your host, Nick Niehaus, reminding you to be heroic.